Mira Ashford stood at the back of the great hall, trying to make herself as small as possible. This was easy for her. She had spent her whole life learning how to disappear. The Thornwood Pack was gathering for the biggest event in 100 years. The Alpha King, Cade Draven, ruler of the Northern Kingdoms, had come to choose a mate through the ancient choosing ceremony. Every unmated wolf in the pack was required to attend, though everyone already knew how the night would end. One of the beautiful, high-ranking daughters would catch his eye. The king would bow before her, the crowd would cheer. That was how these stories always went. Mira was not one of those daughters. She was an Omega, the lowest rank in the pack, and she had grown used to being invisible. Her stepmother had made sure of that. Ever since Mira's father died 5 years ago, she had been pushed to the edges of pack life, given the hardest chores, the smallest room, and the least attention. Her two stepsisters, Talia and Ren, never let her forget her place. "Look at her," Talia whispered now, nudging Ren and nodding toward Mira's plain gray dress. "She looks like she got dressed in the dark." Ren laughed behind her hand. "Someone should tell her this is a ceremony, not a funeral." Mira said nothing. She had learned long ago that silence was safer than defending herself. She kept her eyes on the floor and waited for the ceremony to begin, wishing she could simply go home to the quiet of the kitchen, where at least the pots and pans did not laugh at her. The doors at the far end of the hall opened, and the room fell silent. Cade Draven walked in like a storm, given the shape of a man. He was tall, with dark hair, and sharp gray eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. Even from across the hall, Mira could feel the weight of his presence, the quiet power that seemed to hum beneath his calm expression. He did not smile. He did not need to. Every wolf in the room straightened at his approach, some out of respect, some out of fear. The Alpha King took his place at the front of the hall, and the pack elder began to explain the old tradition. The king's wolf, guided by instinct older than memory, would sense his true mate among the gathered wolves. But there was another part of the ceremony, one that had not been used in generations. Any unmated wolf, regardless of rank, was allowed to step forward and declare a claim before the king's wolf made its choice. It was a right given to every wolf, no matter how humble, a reminder that fate did not care about titles. Of course, no one expected anyone to actually use it. It was tradition, not expectation. The king's eyes moved slowly across the crowd. Mira watched as several of the pack's most beautiful daughters straightened their shoulders, lifted their chins, hoping to catch his gaze. Talia in particular looked like she might burst from excitement. Then, without warning, someone shoved Mira hard from behind. She stumbled forward, nearly falling, and caught herself just in time to keep from landing on the polished floor in front of the entire pack. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Mira turned, her face burning, to see Talia and Ren covering their mouths, trying not to laugh. "Go on, Mira," Talia said loudly, her voice carrying across the hall. "Claim him. Isn't that what you want?" "She claims the Alpha King," Ren announced, louder still, playing along with her sister's cruel joke. "Mira Ashford claims Alpha King Cade Draven as her mate." The hall erupted into laughter. Mira felt as though the floor had opened beneath her. Every eye in the room was on her now, and she had never wanted so badly to vanish. She could hear the whispers, the mocking laughter, the way her name was said like a joke rather than a person. She turned to run, to escape the humiliation any way she could, but before she took a single step, everything changed. Cade Draven's entire body went still. His eyes, which had been calm and distant only a moment before, suddenly flashed gold, the color of a wolf fully surfacing beneath a man's skin. The change was so sudden and so powerful that several nearby wolves stepped back in surprise. The laughter died in an instant. Cade's breathing had turned sharp, and his hands closed into fists at his sides, not in anger, but as though he were fighting to control something enormous moving beneath his skin. His wolf had reacted, and reacted hard, not with rejection, not with mockery, with recognition so powerful it left him shaking. He crossed the hall in a few long strides, wolves parting out of his way in stunned silence, and knelt before Mira. The entire court froze. An Alpha King did not kneel. Not for nobles, not for allies, not for anyone. Yet here he was, on one knee before the pack's lowest-ranked Omega, his gold eyes fixed on her as though she were the only person in the room. "Mate," he said, his voice low and rough, filled with a certainty that silenced every whisper in the hall. "My wolf has chosen you." Mira could not breathe. She stared down at him, certain this was some cruel twist in her stepsister's joke, waiting for the moment everyone would laugh again. But no one laughed. The silence in the hall had turned heavy, disbelieving, and utterly real. "This cannot be faked," the elder said slowly, stepping forward to examine the bond himself. His voice trembled with something between shock and awe. "The wolf does not lie. Whatever this ceremony began as, it has ended in truth. The king's wolf has chosen its Luna." Mira's stepmother, Lady Karine, pushed her way through the crowd, her face pale with fury. "This is a mistake," she said sharply. "My stepdaughter tricked her way into this. She used some kind of magic, some kind of trick." "There is no trick that can force a mate bond," the elder said firmly. "You know this as well as I do." Cade rose to his feet, and when he turned to face Lady Karine, the warmth that had been in his eyes for Mira vanished completely, replaced by something cold and dangerous. "Careful," he said quietly. "You are speaking of my mate." The word hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Mate. Not servant. Not Omega. Not the girl nobody wanted. Mate. In the days that followed, word of the choosing spread across every kingdom in the north. Not everyone was pleased. Many nobles had hoped Cade would marry strategically, forming an alliance with a powerful pack to strengthen his borders. Instead, fate had handed him an Omega with no rank, no army, and no political value. Whispers followed Mira everywhere she went in the palace. Some called her a fraud, others called her lucky. Almost no one believed she deserved to stand beside the king. Cade, however, never wavered. "They will learn," he told her one evening, as they walked together through the palace gardens. The moon hung low and silver above them, casting soft light over the flowers. "The bond does not choose wrong. Whatever they believe about your rank, my wolf sees something in you that they cannot." "What if they never accept me?" Mira asked quietly. She had spent so many years being told she was worth nothing that it was hard to believe anything different now, even with the king himself standing beside her. Cade stopped walking and turned to face her fully. "Then they will learn to live with being wrong," he said simply. "You are not required to earn a place that already belongs to you." His words settled something in her chest that had been trembling since the moment she was shoved forward in that hall. For the first time in years, she felt like someone was truly on her side. But not everyone was willing to let the matter rest. At a royal banquet held 2 weeks later, meant to formally introduce Mira to the allied kingdoms, tension filled the grand dining hall. Nobles from neighboring packs watched her with sharp, judging eyes. Among them was Alpha Ronan Vesk, a powerful leader from the Eastern Territories who had hoped his own daughter would be chosen as Luna. Midway through the banquet, as servers moved between the long tables, a commotion broke out near where Mira was seated. A servant, moving too quickly, stumbled and knocked over a tray, and in the chaos that followed, someone slipped a small vial into Mira's drink. It was Cade who noticed first. His wolf, ever alert where she was concerned, caught the faint, wrong scent rising from her cup before she had even lifted it to her lips. "Don't drink that," he said sharply, rising from his seat so quickly that his chair scraped loudly against the floor. Guards moved swiftly at his command, and within moments, the servant responsible was seized and questioned. The plot unraveled quickly. Alpha Ronan Vesk, desperate to remove Mira and reopen the possibility of his own daughter being chosen, had arranged for something dangerous to be slipped into her cup, hoping to cause a public incident that would embarrass her and weaken her place at Cade's side. The hall was in an uproar as guards restrained Ronan, but Cade's attention remained entirely on Mira, checking that she was unharmed, his hand steady against her back. When the chaos settled, Cade stood and addressed the entire hall, his voice carrying with the full authority of a king. "Let this be understood clearly," he said. "Mira Ashford is my mate and future Luna. Any threat against her is a threat against the crown itself." He turned toward Mira's stepmother and stepsisters, who sat frozen near the back of the hall, their earlier cruelty now painfully public knowledge. And let it also be understood that this pack tolerates neither cruelty nor cowardice. Titles can be given, they can also be taken away. Before the week ended, Lady Corrine, Talia, and Ren were formally stripped of their noble standing within Thornwood Pack, a consequence of both their treatment of Mira and their role in encouraging the very public humiliation that had, ironically, revealed the truth of the mate bond. Still, doubt lingered among the wider court, and Omega, with no formal training, no political skill, and no proven strength, could not simply be accepted as Luna by declaration alone. The Elder Council called for the trial of the Luna, an ancient test reserved for moments when a mate's legitimacy was publicly questioned. It required the challenger to demonstrate wisdom, composure, and inner strength before the full court, proving they were worthy of the crown, not through combat, but through character. Mira spent the days leading up to the trial in quiet preparation, though preparation looked different for her than it might have for someone raised in nobility. She had no army of tutors, no years of political training. What she had instead were years of enduring hardship without breaking, years of watching, listening, and learning to survive with grace, even when no one was kind to her. On the day of the trial, the court gathered once more in the Great Hall, the same hall where she had once been shoved forward as a joke. This time, she walked in on her own, her chin lifted, her steps steady. The trial tested her in ways she had not expected. She was asked to resolve a dispute between two feuding pack families, to show mercy where mercy was earned, and firmness where it was needed. She was asked to remain calm under pressure as elders questioned her sharply, testing whether her composure was real or simply a performance. She was asked, finally, to speak plainly about her own life, her own pain, and what she believed she could offer as Luna. Mira did not pretend to be something she was not. She spoke honestly about her years as an overlooked Omega, about the loneliness and the quiet strength it had taught her, about how being underestimated had given her the ability to truly see people others overlooked. "I cannot offer armies or alliances," she said, her voice steady despite the weight of every eye upon her. "But I can offer understanding. I know what it means to be unseen. I will never rule as though the smallest voices in this pack do not matter, because I was once one of them." Silence followed her words, but it was a different kind of silence than before. Not mocking, not doubtful, thoughtful. The Elder Council conferred quietly before turning back to the hall. "The trial is complete," the head elder announced. "And it is clear, Mira Ashford's strength was never something she needed to prove. It was something this court simply failed to see." The hall erupted, not into laughter this time, but into applause. Cade stepped forward, taking Mira's hand in front of the entire court, his gold eyes bright with something that looked remarkably like pride. "My wolf never doubted you," he said softly, only for her to hear. "It was the world around you that needed convincing." The formal coronation took place weeks later, beneath a sky full of stars, with the entire kingdom gathered to witness Mira crowned as Luna beside her king. Where there had once been laughter meant to break her, there was now genuine celebration. Where there had once been whispers of doubt, there was now quiet respect. Mira stood tall beside Cade as the crown was placed upon her head, thinking of the girl who had once tried to disappear in the back of a crowded hall. That girl was gone now, not because she had changed who she truly was, but because the world had finally caught up to what her mate's wolf had known from the very first moment. She had never needed to be chosen by everyone. She only ever needed to be chosen by the one whose choice truly mattered, and by herself, at last.